Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Welcome, our dear Shaykh and Elder and esteemed guest, Shaykh Hud. And this is part 3 of our interview, mashallah. Thank you so much for your time, Shaykh.
You're welcome.
Mashallah. So now we're going to get into, we spoke about the early life, what it was like in Philly, went to the Air Force, and then last episode we spoke about your transition into the Black Panther Party, into Black nationalism. So now this is taking us up to about 1970, time-wise. Okay, so when did you accept Islam and how old were you?
I accepted Islam in 1972.
1972.
And I was, what, almost 32 years old.
Almost 32 years old. So, were you already married?
I was married, bro.
Okay. So how many children did you have at this time?
Well, I had 3 already on the planet, and then my son was born some months after I fell.
I see.
Now, I was raised in the Lutheran Church, and I've always had doubts about the catechisms and things that they taught. But I would say, if you would ask me what my beliefs were, I would say I was more of an agnostic than anything else. I believe in the Creator, but I just wasn't satisfied with some of the things that I was raised on, some of the things that I experienced and so forth. It just didn't match up. Now, after I fell, I had to take a something inventory. I said, I'm in bad shape. I'm in real bad shape. And I think, like most people, when you're really down and out, you lean on the Creator more than you would ordinarily.
Right.
Because that's when you need Him most,
of course,
you're concerned. So after taking some inventory, I said, well, you know, I got to be a little more God conscious. And
so is this the county at this point in time?
I'm at the county, right? And how actually, if I can digress a little bit, the first time I actually witnessed someone making prayer was when I was in PGH, Philadelphia General Hospital. Now, when I got arrested, I got tuned up kind of bad, and they put me in the hospital. Anyway, there was a brother by the name of Ralph Hobbs, Umar. We were separated from each other. He was in one room, I was in another room, right across from him. So I saw him making salat. I didn't know what it was, but so we talked. I said, "What are you doing?" You know, he told me that he was making prayer. So me being what I was and who I was, I said, man, that's all black folks do is pray all day long. We can't get nothing done. I mean, we got to do something. They shooting and killing us and all that. What are we going to do, you know? He said, no. I said, I know how you feel. He said, but you'll come to realize that there's a little more to it than that. Okay. So I watched it make sure. It was, you know, I kind of like brushed it off. Yeah, just what black folks do, pray all day long, and when we get done, we right back where we started, nowhere.
Right.
So after I spent some time at PGH, I went to Holmesburg, and I settled in, and I was on I Block, and at that time, I remember early in the morning hearing the brother call the Adhan. So I was curious, well, what is all that about? And it just so happened that I met this brother by the name of Killer, Buddy Thomas. That was his junior name. And I asked him, I said, well, you know, why are you making that noise in the? For me, it was noise.
Right.
True.
Right.
And you know, he said, no, I'm calling the brothers of prayer. You calling what brothers? You know, that type thing. So he kind of like laughed. He said, he was very mild-mannered brother. He said, you'll learn. So I started seeing brothers going into his cell and they were coming out. And I was wondering, because we weren't really supposed to be in each other's cells.
Right.
But because Holmesburg was crowded, so a cell built for 2 had as many as 4 guys. So a lot of traffic going back and forward. So it really wasn't a big thing about seeing 2 or 3 guys coming in and out of the cell, because that's how many people live there. So eventually, I listened, and I started noticing more brothers congregating and going, and I'm looking in the cell while they're making prayer and so forth. And after a while, you develop relationships. You play cards or whatever the case might be. And at that time, I was playing a lot of pinochle and things of that nature. So you get to talking and so forth. And one conversation led to another. I ended up asking him, well, what is it you guys are doing? He said, I'm Muslim. Well, the only Muslim that I knew about was the Nation of Islam.
So that's my next question, Sheikh. Just cut you off. I want you to hold that thought. So there was a Sunni influence in the prisons as early as 1972?
Very minor.
Very minor.
Very minor.
But there were aspects of the Sunnah, like people praying.
Oh yes, definitely.
But they were very small in number compared to the nation at that time.
Well, on our block, I would say, definitely. I would say on our block, it might have been, maybe 6 or 7 brothers at the time. And we're talking like 1971, something like that. And the nation had asked to be assigned to one block. So most of the brothers in the nation went on D block.
J block.
D block. That's where everybody went. So the only time we saw them was if we were going to chow, because Holmesburg was like split in half. You had the A side and the J side, and I was on the J side. And like here, you couldn't mingle. Your block went out to wherever you had to go, and then everybody stayed in.
Right.
But anyway, getting back to the main theme is that as I began to listen, and I watched the brothers, and they invited me to come and listen to their dissertation. Now, at the time, we only had one Quran in the whole jail. I didn't know at the time, but we only had one Quran.
Wow.
And I believe that belonged to Killer. I'll fast forward. After I took Shahada, we all went to C block, which was where the dispensary was. We used to sign up for a sick call, and we would go over to C block. And we would crowd around the Quran. I mean, that was the only one in the jail.
Wow.
And the brother would read certain things, and we would hang out as long as we could. And they said, you got to go back to the block. So we only had one Quran in the whole jail for one time. I believe it belonged to Killer. I'm pretty sure it belonged to him. Now, it's kind of odd. I'm going to go back again, because now I'm talking to the brothers more and more, and because of my case, I was kind of like a celebrity, so to speak. Everybody said, well, this brother, the drama he's facing, he's sincere about what he's about. So I figured out how to move around the jail, and I'm going here and everywhere. And what happened, we were talking, about any and everything. And one time I said, well, inshallah. And it surprised me and surprised everyone. I just said it. And the brother smiled. He said, yeah, I said, you about ready. So I played it off like, it's just like you hear certain things, you just repeat it and so forth. And little by little, I began to take an interest in what was being said. Now on our block, they had a cell that it was kind of like leaking a little bit. We had the skylight overhead, And the windows was about the same size as the windows over here, about this wide. And the only air you could get was open skylight up. So when it rained, it kind of leaked. So what the brothers did was they got the rugs and so forth, and they made like a little masala. So we would go in the masala and we would read. Now we got one or two more kinds in the jail, and so we would read. And everybody's favorite story was Yusuf, because it relates to him being in the penitentiary.
Right.
So little by little, I'm listening, and then one day the brother said, "Well, when you gonna take Shahada, man? You know, you playing around with this thing." I said,
So you used to go to the Masala and you weren't Muslim?
"No, I just go to listen because it was kind of fascinating to listen to the Arabic, what little bit I understood or knew what it was."
Right.
And the brothers were very comfortable. They weren't hyped up. They were very comfortable and very steadfast. So, well, one day I just took Shahada, you know. And
what was the most convincing thing that?
I'm gonna tell you what actually convinced me that I was on the right path was we were in the cell and we were reading Surah al-Maryam, and when it got to Isa alayhi salam birth, I backed the wait a minute, we ain't going there. I hope we're not going. I don't believe that. Now I'm scientifically inclined. I like mechanical things and all like that. So I'm looking at the process of a male and female, the way it is, you know. And they said, "Well, you don't believe in immaculate conception?" I said, No, I never believed that. So they gave me the Quran, one of the few in the jail, and said, "Go to your cell and read it." So I read it. It just didn't dawn me. It just didn't click. So I came back the next day and they said, what do you think? I said, "Man, I don't believe it, man. I just can't believe it." So they said, "Well, try it again." So I tried it again. So when I read the ayah where it says, "We liken unto Adam, Jesus like unto Adam," we said, "Be as it is," then it hit me. I thought, I said, "Yeah, that makes sense." And my way of thinking was, well, why would I deny the Creator the ability to do that when He's created everything? And that's what locked me in.
Right.
That's how I got really grounded. He said, "Be and it is." I said, "Okay, I got it." And I've been rolling ever since.
Wow, mashallah. So you took your Shahada. This is 71.
72.
72 now. So you leave all those brothers, Brother Khidr and the other brother, and you come upstate.
Right.
So what were the numbers like, and who were the groups claiming Islam at the time?
Well, at that time, we had a sprinkling of Ahmadiyyas, maybe 4 or 5, and we had maybe 15 or so Sunnah, and the rest was the Nation of Islam. That was what was going on. They had it covered.
Right.
They had the whole jail covered.
So you were in Western?
No, I never been anywhere but here.
So they sent you straight to Graterford?
I never been anyplace else.
Wow, interesting. So you said Ahmadiyya.
Right, we had about 4 or 5 of them.
Was there a foreign influence inside the jail at the time, or was it predominantly just African American?
Oh, no, it wasn't any influence at all other than African American.
So how would the misguided groups like the Ahmadiyya, how did that spread in the prison?
Well, they were already here when I came to the fort. And see, the chapel area, the basement was open, and they had 2 rooms. One small room, I would say maybe the size of this room here, or smaller. And then you had another room, which I would say I'm trying to give you something the guys can relate to. The room right across the hall from the gym, where you see the ice cream and all that, that particular area. That's the room that the AA had. They had that a couple nights a week. The rest of the basement, the chapel was empty. It was just there. It had a bunch of junk and storage room, and it was just there. So now Saeed can tell you better, because I had just missed that. And I hope he remembers. He probably does. When they contacted, when I say they, because I'm not really sure who actually contacted, but anyway, Dr. Muhammad Raouf, he was the director of the Islamic Center in Washington, D.C. They contacted him and asked him to come and visit the fort to try to get Islam set up.
Right.
He came. It was I think it was like November 1972. He came, and that's when Islam, at least the Salaf, got started. Now the nation was using upstairs chapel. They were using upstairs chapel all the time. And sometimes in the basement, when it was empty, they would march. They had their marching thing. The Ahmadiyas, because there were so few of them, they kind of like, whatever they could get down there in that little small room, they would congregate there. And all of us that were following the Sunnah, we hung out in that area. Then we just, I'm telling you, we just basically commandeered the other room just by coming down there all the time. Because it was only open, or the only time they used it was like maybe Tuesday, Wednesday night. And we kind of like had a free hand of going and coming in the chapel.
Right.
So we just went down there and just took it over. So we did. We just, it was empty, nobody using it.
Right.
And when the AA had to use it, we would fall back. And when they weren't using it, then we had it. And that's how we basically got started.
So, who was the earliest Muslim claimant to be Sunni that you personally knew? You want to elaborate on Yusuf Abedin?
Oh, I met Yusuf Abedin. I would say I met him probably in maybe early '73, right before I came here.
Okay, so you met him at Holmesburg.
How old was he?
No, you met him at the county.
Right.
Okay, so how old was he at the time, and what was so special about Yusuf Abedin?
Well, one thing, he was an elder. He had to be like, I would say in his 50s.
Wow.
Or early 60s. He had to be, because when he talked about things that would apply to someone his age.
Right.
And he mentioned to us that he was up here at the fort in the middle and late 50s, maybe early 60s. And he explained how it was. And we were fascinated because he's definitely our senior. I'm in my early 30s, and he's like 50 or almost maybe 60, so he's definitely our senior. And very quiet brother. I mean, he was, well, for me, he was like a big brother. For the guys that were younger, it was like a father figure. But he's very calm and very quiet.
So he's from Philly?
He did not push his age on us. He didn't try to say, you guys are doing this wrong, you're doing that right. He just let us roll. Right. Because we're all learning, day by day.
Right.
And
so he was from Philly?
Tell you the truth, I really don't know where he was from.
So what made him?
He has something to offer. He has history.
Right. So what was his history?
Well, he never talked about his case. To this day, I could never tell you why he was there.
Right.
But he used to talk about how the fort was back in the day. And when we first came in the system, and they give you your clothes and so forth, we had browns that we got now, but we had belts. We had like army belts with the brass buckle and so forth. And they gave you shirts and a tie and some other things. Now, the tie was used when you went to church. So if you went to church, you put your jacket on like I'm wearing, and a shirt and your tie. And that was standard. You know, when you went to church, you had to go there.
Right.
So he was telling us how you almost were forced to go to church on Sunday. He said if you were sick, something like that, they give you a pass. He said you really didn't have to go to church, but it was advisable because in order to make parole, you had to have a good resume, and that was part of it.
Right.
So he would say that a lot of times he stayed in his cell. You know, he just wouldn't come out.
Right.
And he was saying that the only game in town was Christianity. He said, in fact, at that time, he said, even if you were Catholic, you weren't looked upon too well. But if you were Baptist or
Right.
Pentecost or whatever the case might be, you're okay. But he said that you better not be caught doing anything other than what Christians do. So he said that when it came time to make prayer, he had to make prayer at times where he would not be seen. So like if say like I should come in at 4 o'clock. Well, they count at 4 o'clock. So he would have to delay his prayer until after the guard walked by. Now he can make Asha or Zohar or whatever time they counted or whatever time they walked by. He had to time it to make sure that he wasn't seen making salat.
Right.
And he said that he, for the most part, the time that he spent in the penitentiary, and I don't know how many years that was, but it seemed to be a lot. He had to not deny Islam, but he had to act like it didn't exist. He made prayer whenever he could, however he could.
Right.
And this is how he rolled. He said, you better not be caught doing anything other than praying the way the Christians prayed. So he said, bro, it was tough. But he didn't elaborate on it. He never complained about it. It was just a matter of fact. And we would listen to him. We were trying to figure out, wow, how you do all that?
So you had no idea how long he became Muslim or how?
No, he was a very quiet man. He was laid back. He was that guy.
Wow.
But he was a pleasure to be around because, like I say, he was like an older brother and a father figure to a lot of guys. So we just liked being around him.
So now, 1972, 1973, you become Muslim. You come to Graterford, you start doing your time. So how did the the Sunni Salafi community grow? And how did you and Sheikh Saeed hook up?
Okay, Sheikh Saeed got here a little earlier than me. I'm a month or so behind him. And
so he went to trial first?
I went to trial first, but I got sentenced first. It was some time after he got sentenced. They just roughshod, they just tried us whatever way they could. But anyway, when we came up here, Saeed was here already, and it might have been, he could probably tell you better, it might have been maybe 10 or 12 Muslims. So. And we could not make salat because there was no place to make salat.
Right.
So we tried to get permission to have an area to make salat, and we couldn't get it.
Right.
So we started making prayer in the hallways. We made prayer in the hallway, we made prayer on the block, under the steps. We went out in the yard, wherever we could make prayer, that's what we did. Which gave us opportunity to be confronted by the COs. They see us praying, oh, what y'all doing? And we would like have a couple of brothers stand straight to keep the guards away, don't they making prayer. But what y'all doing? What y'all doing, you know?
Right.
And every now and then a little tussle would jump off because they want to break, this is their house.
Right.
So, you know, we're breaking the rules as far as they're concerned.
Right.
So now we got a compensation.
So how did they get to that point? Like the numbers that grew. You gotta give me some names and personalities that actually came through the community and made it strengthen.
Well, actually, what happened was, I think the admiration of seeing brothers confronting the powers that be.
Mm-hmm.
We were always tussling with the police and so forth. You know, we couldn't wear kufis. You know, they physically snatched them off the head sometimes. Mm. And we said, you know, what's that about? So now we got a little tussle. Guy, he give me that beanie. And he reached for it, oh, don't do that, don't do that. Now he's in charge, so he's gonna, who are you to tell me what I can't do? Right. So now all of a sudden we got a little confrontation, you know. So wise head prevailed. And they said, well, you can't wear them you can't wear them. The only place we could wear a kufi, if you had one, was on the block. Mm-hmm. Or maybe in the yard. But wearing them in the hallway, unless you were going to the yard, you couldn't wear a kufi other than the block. Wow. That's where it was. And so a lot of times brothers would wear their kufi on the way to a visit, and they might get stopped. And if they didn't get stopped when they got downstairs to change and so forth, they couldn't wear it in the visiting room. So they couldn't go to visits with the uniform on. No, we just wore what we wore, but we had to change it to a visiting attire. You know. And it was like a shirt and a pair of pants and elastic on and so forth. And you could not wear anything other than that. Mm-hmm. See, so a lot of brothers got rolled up for wearing kufis, disobeying an order or whatever the case might be. So how many were you at this time? Oh, and when I got here, it might have been maybe 20, 25 at most. That was it. I see. So what were some of the major obstacles you faced besides the opposition to the guards? The opposition we had was trying to negotiate how to make prayer and go with the child lines and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. See, you got to remember one thing. In the late 60s, early 70s, the criminal justice system was changing from penitentiary to corrections. Mm-hmm. The hard line, walk straight here and all that, it was slowly dissipating. Really? You know, they began to let us buy things in the commissary that weren't available, like radio and TVs. There wasn't no radio and TVs when I first fell. Mm-hmm. That came later. So the only ones that had radios, like down in the county, were guys that were sentenced to do a bit down there. They're the only ones. Now, when we came upstate, everyone had headphones. You had a jack on the wall with four plugs in it, and one had sports, one had music, one had whatever. They're like 4 different channels, or 4 different stations. And that's all you had. You had nothing else, see, so wow. You had to do your bit. Right. Do your bit with the earphone. But now, with the permission to have TVs, you start seeing guys from buying radios and then the TVs, but the TVs were hard to get because the TVs they made at that time used too much electricity. Right. You gotta remember that Graterford opened up in 1929, and the only electricity you had in your cell was a bulb. light, an overhead lamp overhead with a 60-watt bulb.
Right.
You had the, what do you call it, it's been so long, they don't have it anymore. You know, you screw your bulb in it, and you screw it in the light, and then you pull a chain.
Right.
And the light came on and up. That was the only light you had.
Light switch.
And yeah, and a 60-watt bulb was not very bright.
Right.
But that's all they had back then. Now you got the advent of TVs and radio, now you need more juice.
Right.
So what happened was the state said you could have a 9-inch TV, but it couldn't use any more than, say, 48 watts. Well, most TVs at the time used like 60 watts. So it was very, very hard to get a TV that didn't have that kind of power consumption. So we got a lot of moving parts going on.
Right.
And little by little, we were able to get a few things that that wasn't available back in Holmesburg. Now we up here. Now we have access to more reading materials. We have now we can buy Qur'ans now.
So by this time, Qur'ans became more available.
Right.
So where were the main places you purchased Qur'ans from back then?
Let me see. I believe Halalco.
In Virginia.
Yeah, I believe that's where we got them from. Yeah.
So what books of Sunnah did you have access to?
Very few at the time. See, hadith, what were they?
Right.
We heard about hadith, but we only, like I said, for a year or so, we only had one Quran in the whole system down in Holmesburg.
Right.
And hadith was like, they just weren't available.
Right.
Now I think before I came upstate, I think I was able to buy Bukhari volume number 2. Mm-hmm. And that was it. That was all.
That was a big deal.
Yeah. And if they start selling Muslim, the whole set for 4 volumes, but they were hard to get a hold of. Mm-hmm. So a lot of us didn't buy anything until we got here. And even here was kind of hard. It just wasn't a lot.
They came out of Pakistan?
Some things came from Pakistan. We just bought wherever we could from wherever.
Right.
You know.
So had Sheikh Saeed come at this point?
Oh, Saeed was over here. He had beat me here.
Okay, he came first.
A couple months, right.
Right. So y'all on the same block?
No, I was on I block and he was on D.
Uh-huh.
Because you lived on the block where you worked. And,
Right.
And no, I was on C block. And C block was maintenance and a couple shops, I think, maybe shoe shop or something like that. Mm-hmm. The way the jail was built, when you came out to the hallway to go to work, that was maintenance. If you worked in any shop, you just walk across the hall and you were right there.
Right.
You didn't travel too far.
So this is the first time you ever been incarcerated?
Yeah.
So how was the experience dealing with that? Because now you're Muslim. Mm-hmm. You come to Islam early during your sentence. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot going on. So how did you transition?
Well, the thing is, once you get to lay the land, learn where you live, mm-hmm. then you negotiate your religion according to where you are. Right. Yeah, if it's time to make salat and you couldn't make salat, you just delayed it or whatever the case might be. Right. And it's a learning experience, but you learn how to get around. A lot of times, like when we first came here, they were changing the chow halls. Mm-hmm. And the chow halls had seats like in a row. Maybe 7, 8 people sitting in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. So when you came up, they opened the door. At that time, they opened the door like at 6:30 in the morning to go to chow. And they open the door, you step out, and you kind of like walk in line. But before that, you had to step out, close the door, boom, and then march to the chow hall.
You remember marching?
Oh yeah, and then you went in the chow hall, and you had the seat, one keep throw the rows in. And then when you got it done, they say, all right, let's go. Now, you went by sections. Right. And so forth. So sometimes when that section was done, another section was coming. And you go back in the sun, you wait until it's time to go to work, whatever the case might be. Now, slowly but surely, they begin to put the octagon tables they got now. They were putting them in, but before then, you had to sit in a row.
Right.
And they stood there and watched you. So, all right, let's go. You couldn't take anything out the cell hall except fruit, so forth.
So, you told me that in the county, the nation, they were together on I block.
No, they were on D block.
On D block. So, when you come to Graterford, were they segregated too?
No, they were everywhere, but at this time, let's see, like I said, the system was changing. And they made Graterford the assessment session. When you first come in the system, they figure out where you're going to go. And everybody came to Graterford but didn't study.
Right.
Everybody went to Dallas or they went to wherever they had to go.
Right.
So, when you first came in the system, everybody went to B Gallery. On B, they had a block. On B block, they had it wired up and caged in. Everybody went there. And then they assigned you where you got to go. Now, right after I came, they opened up E block. Now, E block is assessment. Everybody's called quarantine. And everybody went on E block. You stayed over there. And then wherever they sent you, that's where you went. You went according to where you lived, or you lived according to where you worked. See, like D block was mainly the kitchen. All the guys were in the kitchen. They usually lived on D block. The guys on A block went outside on the farm, or they worked in the what do you call it, where they make sheets and towels, all like that.
How much did you guys make back then?
We started out 19 cents an hour, and the top pay was 29 cents.
Wow. It hasn't changed that much now.
No.
Wow. So, at this time, you assumed the leadership of the Sunni community?
Oh, no. Saeed was the first imam.
Saeed was the first imam. So when did Shaykh Hud come into play?
After me.
Okay. So what time frame are we talking about with Shaykh Hud?
Well, I took over in 76, and I retired, so to speak, in 86, and Talha took over from 86 to 96.
Right. Now, before we jump into the 80s, when was the first time you met Shaykh Hud? How old was he?
Let's see. Talha, he came from, I think, from Huntington or Western. I would say it had to be like 81, 82.
Oh, so you met him in the 80s?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yeah. He was a young buck.
Right.
You know, he was a real young buck at the time.
So what was Shaykh Hud's personality like?
Laid back. He watched everybody. He was real quiet. And I'll say this here. I kind of sensed that when it was time for me to move on, that he would be the next imam. I had that feeling because the way he carried himself. You know, everybody. So we actually ran the masjid like a little country. Our own police force, which was the Sharifs. And we had the Wakil that took care of the masala. And we had a Majlis Jor, believe it or not.
This is Master Sajda?
Yeah.
So what year did Master Sajda begin? And how?
Well, Saeed is the one that named it. And when you ask him why he named it Sajda, he'll tell you because we were always making salat. And we would always make salat in the yard, in the hallway, on the block, wherever we could.
Right.
And it was like we were always in constant prayer. That's the reason that he told me that he arrived at the that name.
Right.
Now the masjid in the county was called Safat. Now Safat was basically in league with the nationalist mood that was going on. See, we have, you got to remember, you had the Panthers, and you had the Ram, you had Dick for Defense, you had all these black national BLA, had all these plus. You had a lot of things going on at the same time. So everybody has a nationalist concept.
Right.
We came from the 50s where everybody was protesting and marching, all that. Now we're combative. Right. The attitude is combative. Right. We're not going to lay down. We're not going to do what our forefathers and so forth did. We're going to confront this thing head up. Right. So you had that type of feeling. So everything was militant. Right. The discipline was there. See, so the fight ranks and ranks. What better name? Right. Now, how we got that name, I don't know.
I see. So, Shaykh Hud comes on the scene about 81.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Okay. So, what was the demographics then at this point? Were you still at war with the Nation of Islam at this point?
Oh no. We had basically overcome all that. Now remember, the nation went through 3 or 4 transitions. After Muhammad passed away, they took on the name, I think, American Muslim Mission. Right. Then they became the Balawians. Then they changed and named themselves Islamic Community of the West. And then when Warif took over, everything was Warif Deen Muhammad. Right. So while they're going through their changes, we rock steady. Right. We're substance, and we're going to continue to be substance. And little by little, we can see a lot of brothers drifting away from that community to come to just what we call now the South.
Now the time frame is early 80s.
Yeah.
The Sunni Salafi community has structure now. The numbers are growing. So, I understand you guys had classes. What were the books that you guys taught as far as Aqidah? And who were the teachers?
Well, it varied. Like I say, we had a very extensive library and so forth, and a lot of you got to remember now. You're talking about quite a few years ago. You got a whole lot more materials now than ever back then. Right. Most of us at that time had Yusuf Ali Quran, the translation. That was all that was available. Right. And you had a sprinkling of dissertations and books from other scholars and so forth. Right. But very narrow. It's not like it is now. You could almost, it's unbelievable.
So many books have been translated. Yeah. But what Aqidah book did you teach or study?
Well, like I said, we weren't aware of Aqidah at that point until, I would say, Talha. He actually was the one that made sure that we understood what Aqidah was. The years that I was in charge, I was trying to build the community. The nuts and bolts, the negotiating with the people, going to court, things of that nature. This is what I'm a hands-on guy. Right. Talha the scholar. He's the scholar. Right. I'm the bricklayer, and he's the blueprint guy. He's the one that draws the blueprint. Right. I follow whatever. So I would say that his tenure as Imam helped the masjid grow in terms of Aqidah and so forth. And what I did was, during the time that I was in charge, I was trying to make sure that we had
Right.
We need this here, we need that, you know. Now, Saeed will probably be touch on this here. Brothers don't understand what it took to get what we have now.
Right.
We used to sneak down in the chapel and stay there from about 11 o'clock or 11:30 until 1. Father Gallio was the head chaplain. And Father Gallio, he was the Catholic priest, and he was the head chaplain. And he knew we were downstairs. We would find our ways to sneak down in the area, in the masjid. Brother, we would sit in the dark. They would cut the lights off at 11:30 in the morning, and they would not cut the lights on until 1 o'clock. We would sit in that masjid in the dark.
Wow.
Not saying one word. The word was no word. Keep quiet. And we would just sit there. And depending on the time of year, you know, like when like Lord come in like at 12 o'clock,
right.
12:15, we would actually have Juma in the dark. In the dark.
Wow.
And then when the lights came on and the jail was moving, when they have a yard and have work lines and all that, we would ease out from downstairs and blend in with the people.
Wow.
That's how we did it.
So you used to have Juma in the dark.
They have Juma in the dark.
Wow. So they didn't have the head count system like they have now?
No, the only head count they had then was at 4 o'clock and at 9. That's how we were able to finagle.
Wow.
You know, we took advantage of what we could.
Right.
And when I say be silent, I don't know whether these young guys this day could do that. But we would actually sit there in the dark, brother, and don't say a word. And then when it came time to make prayer, we talking about barely hear it. You could barely hear the prayer being made because we didn't know whether we could be heard or not.
Right.
See, so we just went ahead and we just made salat.
So were you the main khatib?
At that time, yeah.
Uh-huh.
But get away from me, now some other brother got to realize this too, is this here. In the chapel, it was built over top of like a little stream or brook or something, and you could hear the water. If you go to the drain on the floor, you could hear the water running. And when it rains, upstate, we learned the demographics or geography. Like we're on what you call the lee side of a mountain chain. And whenever it rained in Allentown, Easton, and all like that, when it rained up there, 3 days later, all that water that was up there made its way down this way. And we would be in prayer, or we would be like having halakas or whatever it might be, and all of a sudden we would see water coming out the floor, just come up out the floor. We used to make, sometimes while we were making prayer, we would be making prayer in water. We would actually be making salat, and all of a sudden the water just eased in, and now we all wet, but we did it.
Wow.
We actually did. So now we're making prayer in the dark and so forth, and now we're making prayer in the water. So we really had to struggle, man, to make this thing happen.
Wow.
But you know, alhamdulillah, we did it.
Alhamdulillah. So now, 1981, that's when you started taking them to court.
Yeah. We went to court. Oh, I think in 81, when they first started allowing women to work here, we went to court and we used our religion. Say, look, you know, according to Quran and Hadith, women are not supposed to be in charge of men. Men are supposed to be in charge of the women. Our job is to maintain them and protect them. Now
Right.
you got them protecting us, protecting us.
Right.
So we went to trial. It was Bill Hollowell. He was Catholic. Billy Paul was Jewish. Ahmed, Jabbar, and myself. Mm-hmm. And we went to federal court, and we argued our case. And the person that really argued against us really was a Muslimah. Mm. Her name was Dr. Gora Borden, and Gudrun Bor. And she said, no, that's old Islam, this is the modern Islam and so forth. But at the end of the day...
She was a prosecutor or something? I mean, not a prosecutor.
No, she was a psychiatrist or something like that.
So how did she want to get involved?
Well, she was a witness for the state.
Uh-huh.
So she said, no, that's old Islam. She's from Turkey. Oh, that's old Islam, we don't do that anymore, blah, 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 So at the end of the day, the reason why we lost wasn't because of that. We lost the case because the Equal Opportunity Employment law says that wherever men can work, women can work.
Right.
So we tried. We tried, but we lost that one.
Right.
Then we asked, now, it wasn't a chaplain, no chaplain here. We were like freelancing to a degree.
Right.
And the way the fort ran at that time, if the chapel was open, as long as there was a guard there and someone from the chaplain staff, you had to run to the chapel. So that's how we were able to ease down there and take care of business.
Wow.
Now, we got to a point where we were able to have aids of sorts. We were able to convince the deputy at the time. His name was Marger. He was a major first. We used to call him Major because nobody could say his last name. Mm-hmm. So we called him Major. Then he became deputy. Now his concept was, I'll let you guys have whatever you want as long as it doesn't cost me any money or cause me security problems.
Right.
It's okay. So we talked to him and said, look, can we have aids? So what is that? So we told him what the aids were. He said, well, what do you need? So at that time now, we said, well, we can have our people send the food in and we'll put it together and have that. He said, okay. So for a couple of years we had that.
Well, no problems.
No problem whatsoever. Right. However, the people in Harrisburg had a different look at this thing.
Of course.
So they said, no, we know they're going to have fellowships. So we said, well, we don't practice fellowship. We have Eves, and that's it.
Right.
So they said, well, if you want to have the Eves, then you got to have, you call fellowship.
Right.
We said, no, we're not going to do that.
Wow. So that's interesting how it's come full circle again.
Sure, full circle. So what we did, we decided not to have fellowship. We went to court. It took us from 1979 to 83 to get a decision. Mm-hmm. And when it got to a point where 1979, when we filed
to 83.
To 83. And we got word from the DOC that they said they could comply with our wishes. Mm-hmm. So what we did is we had listed about 10 different things that we wanted. But when you negotiate, you're going to put things on the table. You put 10 in there just for the starting of it. You're going to lose 3 or 4 or 5 right off the bat.
Which is
what we expected.
Right.
And everything that we asked for, they agreed to. Mm-hmm. So now we can wear the koofies.
Right.
We can anywhere in the jail.
Wow, that was a big accomplishment.
Oh, yes, and then we can have aids and so forth now. Right. Now we can get a lot more books and so forth.
Let me ask you a question, Shaykh Hud. How did Islam affect the inmate population? Meaning, did the community have a say-so in some of the vices in the prison. So for example, let's say, we know Islam, Muslims against gambling. The Muslims have a big voice in eliminating that.
No.
The moral aspect.
That's just too much. We established a lot more physical things than we did that type of thing. A good example is this here. The reason, I would like to think, the reason why, the way that we go and prepare ourselves for visits was because of what we refused to do. When I first came here, we were supposed to get dressed. They was into this, your hands, butt naked, turn around, spread your cheeks, lift your scrotum, open your mouth, wiggle your finger, all that kind of stuff. But it's like 10 or 12 was trying to go in at the same time, and the way they wanted it done was all 10 and 12 y'all gonna get it done at the same time. We're gonna give you your uniform and then you go visit.
Right.
So we struggled for all that because they were let us lay back a little bit. But that's not practical because more guys are coming down.
Right.
You look around, you know, okay, them 4 or 5 guys, they left, but here goes 7, 8 more guys.
Right.
So we said, man, we ain't gonna never get nothing done.
Right.
So we argued about being last. They said, well, y'all either take a visit or you don't. So Lila said, well, that's it. But it put a strain on our family relationship because they said, we come up here and you refuse a visit. So now we had loggerheads with our people.
Right.
Now we're being threatened not to have a visit, and we're telling our people we don't want to have a visit because blah, blah, blah. So it was tough. Some of us said, well, we gonna just bite the bullet. Some of us didn't.
Right.
But we decided one issue that we wanted to go to court in.
How long did that last? Because that's a big sacrifice.
It lasted, Mr. I would say 5, 6 years. Yeah. A lot of us wouldn't take visits. In fact, when we filed our suit, the court appointed some lawyers for us and said, okay. They came to visit and they told us to step down. We said, no, we ain't gonna do it. They said, well, y'all, ain't no business. So we left and we went back and wrote to the attorney and said, look, the reason why we didn't take the visit was because of what we argued about in court.
Right.
We do not want to stand here and be standing there buck naked and so forth trying to get to see you.
Right.
He said, we understand. So when we finally went to court on the issue of dealing with the women working here, when we came back from court, that very day they decided to put what I call double locks. When you come in, you close the door behind you, you get dressed, whatever you got to do in order to get a visit.
Right.
That little area there, the same way when we go in the business right now, that little area that we got to get dressed in,
Right.
I would like to think that we are the ones that made that happen. Because before, it wasn't there.
Wow.
So we made that happen. And also, we argue about the showers. At the showers, we had like 2 showers on each side, up top and bottom, and they were all glass. And when you shower, you know, there wasn't no stalls or anything. We shower, people walk by, and now you got women on the block.
Right,
And we say, man, well, so this is another issue. So when we got it done, they painted the showers where you could just, see our heads. And A, B, and C block had what you call 12 panes in the door. So we painted the bottom so that when the guards walk by, if you're on the toilet, they can see your head. Right. We did that. We got that straightened out. see, some other things. The brother don't realize that, you know, the influence that Islam has on the whole system.
Right.
The whole system changed because of us.
Right.
You know, we kept insisting that things got to be done on a moral level and so forth. And you know, they resisted this, so we had to go to court.
Of course, always a
And
battle.
so forth. But mashallah, alhamdulillah, you know, we ended up prevailing.
Perseverance.
See, so now the way things are now look like we starting all over again.
All that stuff is forgotten.
Yeah,
all the struggles.
Right, yeah.
Okay, Sheikh, what's up here? Wasallallahu, jazakumullah khairan for your time. Wasallallahu wasallam ala nabiyyina kareem ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Thank you for your time, Sheikh.
Okay.